Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night at whatever time you hear this podcast or you even see it. Know that I greet you. This is KelsieJanel, and this is the Songbirds R Us podcast, where we talk about music, talk about mental health, we talk about just being whole. And this morning, I wanted to talk more about the mental health aspect, why it's important to nurture your mental health. Because there are so many people out there that are stressed, so many people that are just worried and on edge all the time. They're on fight or flight mode all the time. They don't even know what rest and relax means. And those people are hurting. They're hurting. And so I just wanted to make a quick podcast this morning because I told myself that even as a musician, even as a writer, even as a friend, a mother, a daughter, a sister, and all that I do, I want to make sure that I not only protect my mental health, but making sure that the people around me are protecting their mental health as well. Because it just takes one thing most of the time for a person to flip. Like, literally. It takes one thing sometimes for a person to flip. So you can imagine for people who are constantly being hit with this and that and this and that, how over time it can cause mental dis-ease. I remember when I finally decided that I wanted to, work on nurturing my mental health more, and I even went as far as starting my master's program in psychology. People were just like, but you're a musician, why are you going into this? And it's simply because, even as a musician, even as a music artist, it is important to know that your music, invokes certain mental states in people, and so as a musician, as an artist, you have a lot of power over people's mental states, and it's so crazy because where I live, for those of you who know, if you don't know, you won't know in this episode. Where I live, I've been here for over a decade now, and I see so many amazing people who there is something mentally wrong. And a lot of the times, it's not simply because they were just born like that or whatever. It's simply because life got to them and they didn't have the proper people, the proper support in their lives to help them get their life. They didn't have it. And so they end up creating this world, creating this universe for themselves around the mental instability. And to them, this is their safe space and everything is okay. But everything is not okay. I see it all the time, whether I'm in transit or if I'm on social media. I see it all the time, especially where I live, and honestly, I don't even think that I was really introduced to it, how serious it is, until I moved here. And as the years went by, I started to see it more and more, and of course during this pandemic, it's ridiculous, because there are people literally losing their minds every day, literally losing their minds every single day. And it's very sad because I know, I'm sorry, most people look to me for, these really happy podcasts and stuff like that. And the next one, I promise, will be back on that. The next one will be back on that. But this was just really on my heart this morning, talking about mental health and, why it's so important, because there are just so many people that are hurting. And they internalize that hurt because they feel like they don't have anybody that they can go to. And they internalize that hurt. And the more that they sit with that hurt, the more that they sit with that grief, the more that they sit with that sorrow and that despair, the more it starts to play on their mind. And they create this world around despair. And then they tell themselves that it is not despair. And so they don't know how to get help. They make cries for help. And then you look back and then it's just a facade. It's just a facade. And we really have to see these people and realize that oftentimes we are not too different. We're not. Oftentimes we're just a step away from losing it. And then we see these people and we look and say, okay, if we don't get it together, this is what will become of us. Some of us are slowly but surely almost there. Which is why it's important. It's important, especially with the times that we're in. It is so important to nurture your mental health, no matter what area of life you're in. Whether, you work in this sector, or you have no job, or you're a student, or you're a parent, or whatever. No matter what area of life you find yourself in, it is so important to nurture your mental health. It's important to take time, literally take time, even if you have to turn your phone off. If you have to say, you know what, this is not going to work, even if you have to go that route, it is important to nurture your mental health. It's important. If you have to say, I can't have this conversation right now. I'm not in a good place to have this conversation. Can we have this conversation at another time if it needs to be had? It's okay. It's okay to do that. Because that mental hurt is something serious. That mental hurt is something that can literally drive somebody up a wall. And by the time you get to that point, you're not going to be in your house more than likely. I know it seems like I'm laughing, but I'm being serious. It's important. You have to, journal. I love journaling. I recently started actually writing in a journal instead of just doing it on my phone so much. But, yeah, you have to, enough is enough where we don't worry about our mental health. People who I talk to on the regular, I tell them all the time that your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and your physical health are all connected. So a lot of times we wonder what's going on when our mental health is slacking, and so our spiritual health, our physical health, and our emotional health also start to slack. And literally what we do is just strengthen those more, or strengthen one of them more, and we forget our mental health, and we're still struggling. It's because we've lost balance. So today, or whenever you hear this, I want you to really take some time for yourself. Take some time to strengthen your mental health, whether that's listening to some soft music with your eyes closed, or by yourself, or going to go take a walk, going to journal, whatever you have to do. I really want you to do that. Stop putting your mental health on the back burner. Stop putting, your self-care, because self-care is also caring for your mental health. Stop putting your self-care on the back burner, and don't think just because you started doing this that people are going to just automatically fall in line. No, there are going to be people who test you just to see what you're doing. Like, there will be people that will test you, and you'll just simply have to say, look, this conversation is bad for my mental health, so I can't have it. You have to really make up in your mind that you are going to put yourself first. Now, if you have children, of course, like if you have children that are young and stuff like that, of course, you are also in charge of their mental health, which means that you need to be mentally stable so that you can make sure your children are also mentally stable, because I see that too, where a child's mental health is messed up from from their youth, and then they get to like their 20s, and it's just so bad. So please, if you have children, please protect the mental health of your children. If it's just you, protect your mental health. And I'm sorry, like I said, I'm sorry this isn't like my normal ha 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 ha. I'll get back to that, but I just wanted to speak to the people today because it's too important. These days that we're living in, people are mentally checking out all the time. And so, as the mother, as the daughter, as the sister, as the friend, I admonish you to please take care of your mental health. You have to. It's so important. All right, y'all. That's enough of me, being on this vibe today. But like I always say, at whatever time you hear this, know that I greet you. It's KelsieJanel, and this is the Songbirds R Us podcast. Peace, and God bless.